Thank you for having me here. But I think this is the nub of the problem, actually. The nub of the problem is that conventional wisdom requires that a case decided by one bench, an equal bench of equal strength, would actually have to honor that decision unless, and if there's a disagreement, the matter has to be referred to a larger bench. Because there we have a problem. We have a tax matter which is being decided repeatedly by 1, 2, 3, and 4 different benches unless the matter goes to the division bench and decides the matter. So what I think is that you are right that if a case has been decided and the law is laid down, then if there is any difference, the matter must go to a larger bench. Now coming to my topic, which is that how a judgment of a court would actually bring an economic development and prosperity. I mean, the question I'm asking myself is, provided a judgment of the court would bring an economic stability, prosperity, development, if it is implemented in letter and spirit, that's the problem actually. I'll come to that later on, but what is actually the economic growth is? Economic growth is actually a science of finances which is being employed by economic institutions, and economic institutions are being set by the political institutions, the political power, which then give a legal framework for operation of those economic laws. Now, being a court, the foremost duty is to ensure that the legal framework within which the economic institutions operate is being implemented in letter and spirit. What it goes without saying that the judgment, how the judgments actually bring an economic development is, firstly, they, as my Lord has already pointed out, that they would actually bring a protection to the private rights of property. The protection to the private right of property is the most pivotal part, which actually encourages an investor to come forward and make an investment. When there is a capital investment that leads to a investment in a human capital, and that when a development or an economic growth is achieved. Secondly, how the judgment actually regulates the contractual obligation of the parties, which includes the contracts containing an arbitration clauses. Then what the judgment brings, the judgments actually provides for a clear and stable regulatory framework. What the judgment can bring is, judgment can check and control the bureaucratic, excessive, and arbitrary policies of the government. The judgments can actually bring more transparency in procurement issues. Judgments can curb corruption. All these elements can actually lead to an economic development. So what I just conclude the matter is that it is actually the rule of law which translates, or which actually introduces an economic development or an economic growth. After all this discussion, there is one thing which I think I should express my opinion, and this is my own personal opinion, and my High Court has nothing to do with that opinion. I mean, a lot has been discussed about the courts, lawyers were put in the docket, judges were put in the docket. The only issue is why, despite all our efforts, we have laws, we have judges working from day to night, 24/7, why the foreign investment is not coming. What is the only difference, perhaps, is that we are not accounting for the difference between a de facto and a de jure political power. Unless we have a political stability, I don't think so. What to talk of a foreign investor, no local investor would actually invest. So that's actually the problem, I think. We are delivering judgment, administration of justice is there, everything is there. But the problem is that unless the legal and the political framework is so stable and is so secure that a gentleman walking in the street will trust it, I don't think so that a foreign investment or a local investment will come. And all these grand declarations about media and media, all these grand declarations about mediation, administration of justice, courts, I think it can be a topic of discussion, but nothing would come out of it.